Hey Scott, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the next level conversation. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
you
so
being here
much
tonight.
for having me. It's an honor to be here with you.
Yeah, and it's an honor to have you. I just wanted to say a few things and give a quick introduction about you first before we get into it. Scott Chesney is a motivational speaker, life coach, and overall humanitarian. Scott has presented to millions of people over the course of his career. You were once told, in which I read, that only 11 people have ever suffered from the same disease that took your ability to walk. And of those 11, 7 had not survived. Though his mind told him to give up and shut down for good, his heart told him, Scott, you are still alive. Since that day, you have not only been alive, but you've thrived. I am so fortunate this evening to have him here at this table. Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's all about thriving, right?
Absolutely, man. Every day we try, right? We get up in
Absolutely.
we get up in the morning. We actually a little backstory. We had met. It was around a surfing community, but we met at a fundraiser one night, and the house was packed, and I saw you sitting there, and I was immediately drawn to you. You know, vis-a-vis your energy. I hadn't even spoken to you, but I just wanted to come up and talk to you. I didn't want to come up and talk to you because, you were sitting in a wheelchair. There was just something about you that I was drawn to. And then when we had an opportunity to speak, just your mood and your presence and your positive attitude was really moving, and I was really drawn to you, and I wanted to continue to talk to you, and it's a reason why I wanted to have you here tonight and have this conversation, even though we're working via a video link. And
Well, I think we have a mutual energy there in which we like to connect with people, and we have that vibration at a certain level in which we're drawn to others that are vibrating at that level. And I felt the same from you. And what a great evening that was for the Best Day Foundation and helping kids with disabilities, all different types of disabilities, get onto the beach, get into the ocean, surf, kayak, do various things. And I call him Captain Mike. Captain Mike Sikeli was hosting the gala that night at his house. And it was just an overall great time for a great cause and meeting great people like yourself.
yeah, it's awesome when you meet someone like you said that has that vibration. You want to talk to them, and I've always been that kind of person that when I meet someone, that's how I jive with someone. Able to have a good conversation and meeting conversation, and your mood is very very positive and very very stable, and it's obvious why you're a motivational speaker and why people are so drawn to you. And I guess the first question that I really have for you is if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to becoming a motivational speaker.
Absolutely. So it's almost been 34 years now that I've sat in this wheelchair. And so a good portion of my life has been led from a wheelchair. And while, as you shared, is that the 11 people before me who had something similar happen, 7 of those occurred in the brain and went down. So at that moment, it was all about gratitude for me and appreciating that I was still alive, that I was still here. And I said 34 years later is that I really believe, Jeff, the only place a true disability can reside is in one's attitude, and that's a choice. So here we are right now choosing to make a difference in this world, you inviting me to be on your show and hoping that this impacts the lives of a lot of people. And in no judgment, I don't believe anyone put us on this earth to say you're a better person or less than someone else, but there are people right now who physically are fine, mentally are fine, who are choosing not to get out of that bed, who are choosing not to get out of that chair, wherever they may be, and say stay sedentary. And that's where I believe is that we really, through our attitude and even our emotions, I talk about emotional paralysis all the time, is that that is far more debilitating than any type of physical paralysis I sit before you with today. So it
Mm,
all boils down to attitude. And
mm,
so I have said every day for 34 years, you know what? I wake up. I wake up just like you do and just like everyone else does.
right.
Difference for me and for compared to a lot of people who are physically and maybe even mentally fine is that I have a waiting wheelchair that's there and it's waiting for me. And
Mm,
I believe that getting in that wheelchair, it's half the battle. That's half the battle in life. And there hasn't
right.
been a day where I haven't gotten in that chair, Jeff. And
Right.
then the other half of the battle is, where my choice is taking me.
Right.
I realize now is that, what our choices can take us. I can help us meet our objectives, can reach our goals, can go beyond our wildest dreams if we want them to. But
Mm-hmm.
conversely, through the power to choose,
Mm-hmm.
we could do a lot of harm to ourselves, to other people, and live a very sad and depressing life. So
Right.
I'm going to choose to go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime where my life, whether it be adversity or a setback, has
Mm-hmm.
taken me in reverse, so to
Right.
speak,
Right.
that's an opportunity to grow and learn more about myself. And that's what I've been trying to do for 34 years, is live my life that way, because I really believe, and though I'm not walking right now, but I got to walk my talk, is that I have to live this first myself and continue to live it before I'm really in an appropriate place to share that message with others.
Right. That's amazing. And I really, really admire that, because I am a half full versus half glass full guy. And I waver back and forth between that. And in the other businesses that I've been involved with, I'm also an entrepreneur as well. I've, faced many, many hardships. And sometimes that mental, masturbation, not wanting to get into the day, the anxiety, the fear can really, really, get the best of you. And here you are, so positive, helping so many people, so motivated. I mean, you find out that you have this spinal paralysis. What do you do after that? What happens? What's going on in Scott's mind after that? I mean,
Well, what's interesting, they always talk about the stages of grief and that you go through. And while I believe there are certain stages, I don't believe that any two people to have the exact same path in life. So whether it be sadness, whether it be depression, whether it be fear, I mean, there's so many places that our journey can take us. I think when I was 15, this first happened to me. I thought I was sick, Jeff. I thought just as quickly as it's entered my body, it's going to exit my body. So,
right,
unlike most people who are paralyzed, is that I didn't have an accident, I didn't have an injury. So it
right,
wasn't something that my mind got a hold of and said, it's complete. You're going to be in this chair the rest of your life.
right.
Conversely, I think there was that part of me that held out hope that said, you know what, I'm going to rise and walk away from this chair someday.
Mm-hmm.
And then the weeks turned to months, the months turned to years. And not that I've given up hope. I'm in a place I truly believe that I will be on my feet again. But I
Wow.
also believe that my life is so much greater than the use of my legs. So it's almost like I'm on two different paths right now. One path is doing everything that I possibly can to get up and out of this wheelchair, and listening to research that's going on, becoming a research participant in different programs around the world. And then there's this part of me that is all about quality of life and living my life to the fullest in this wheelchair, to the
Mm-hmm.
point where, you know what, if I just happen to be in this wheelchair for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to be the happiest person ever
Right.
to live life. But I think the objective for both is at the end, just to live a very rewarding life, whether it's in the chair or not. And that means being true to myself, being true to others,
Mm.
and really living my purpose in life, which is to serve other people.
Right. Well, that's really amazing, and you are living a happy life. I can definitely tell. And you have a beautiful wife. You have children. I mean, you have a whole life. I mean, there are people out there that wouldn't know what to do if something like this happened to them. So it's just amazing, and I'm honored that you're here. And I really, really admire you. What after you got yourself repositioned, I wouldn't say got over it, but were able to get a handle on things of where you were, coming to terms, coming out of the darkness, maybe coming to a light period. What led you to the coaching and the motivational aspect of your career, how you speak to people and you present to people? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So it was the evolution, and I don't think I fully answered your last question. I apologize. Is that I feel that initially I was in that place of maybe denial and shock, and thinking, hey, you know what,
All
just as
right.
quickly as this enters my body, it's going to exit my body. Then I went through some really dark phases in my life in which I was focused on more of what had been taken from my life, and kind of feeling those feelings. And you would expect anyone to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate that I came out on the other side. I hit my rock bottom, And then I realized how much more life was left inside of me, and so much of what I could still do in life, rather what I couldn't do in life.
Right.
So it got me into kind of sharing my message. At first, it was just kind of talking about my own personal individual story. And so I was working for nonprofits and helping them to spread their message and integrating my own message. And then I was fortunate to take 2 wonderful trips around the world. The first one was by myself. I went to 15 countries in 15 months. And the second trip was with my wonderful wife, in which we went to 26 countries in 1 year.
Right.
And I think it was during that second trip, after that first trip, which was all about self-discovery, which
Right.
was all about like digging deep into these issues and allowing myself to feel the losses that I've experienced in my life. And then to
Right.
come out on the other side and start
Right.
to cultivate a message that can help other people create their own blueprints in life
Right.
and what they need to do to not just survive life, but thrive no matter what their challenges may be.
Right. So
So
you went on a little walk, a little emotional, spiritual walkabout. Through the
yeah, and there, you know what? There was no rhyme or no reason. There was no beginning, no end. It was just kind of removing myself from my knowingness here in the United States. I did a lot of research. I've researched about 70 alternative complementary forms of medicine. So it was like a mission for me to be on, and an objective. And while I was looking for things that might enhance my own situation, I was also doing a lot of research that might help others.
Right.
Because it had to be just about me in the beginning.
Right.
But I knew that on the other side of this, it was going to be about helping other people. And that really allowed me to cultivate a message that people resonate with and they can
Right.
plug into their own lives. I still use my story in my presentations and also in my coaching from time to time.
Right.
But then I'm able to connect with people and help them create their own blueprints
Right.
based on where they are in their life, based on where they want to be, based on where they've been. But more than anything, how to just be in the moment more and more.
Right. Right.
Just a
Which is a
great
very
quote, Jeff. Yeah.
which is a very, Buddhist philosophy, stay in the moment, not looking to the future, not going to the back, but to the
Yeah.
past.
You know what? I feel that, you know what, if we were dwelling too much on the past, we're going to remain stuck there. And it's usually not in a positive way. And
Right.
conversely, if we're too preoccupied with the future and constantly worried about the future,
Right.
that's not going to serve us as well. So I
Well,
realize that the past, we can go back and reinterpret any moment. So the past is powerful. And also the future, it's good to have goals and objectives and have an eye on the future. But spending too much time in either place, we're going to miss out on right now, this magical moment that you and I are creating.
right.
And that's where connections are made. If you think about anything wonderful that's ever happened to you in your life, it was a moment in which you probably never wanted to end. And so, you know what, with those moments though, so moments of extreme joy in which we're in a place of gratitude, we remember. But also it's those moments that we wish like never happened. And we wish those moments ended as well. And whether it be adversity, whether it be a setback,
Right.
in those moments, we wish they never took place. And we wish we can erase those. But we look back on those now, Jeff, and we realize we would never be where we are today had it not been for those moments, because they were all about character building. It was all about resilience and all about creating the person that we are today. You're
Yeah.
not only free here in your mind, but more importantly, you're free here in your heart. And
Right.
that's when you can fully subscribe to the belief that
Right.
anything is possible.
Right. And I'm definitely guilty of, the mind spinning, the habit trail, the incidents in the past that I'm embarrassed about, or like, how am I going to reach my goals? And if I don't reach that goals, then I'm not going to be content and I'm not going to be calm. And it's that spinning around that I'm very aware of, but like, how do I bring myself to that present moment? How do I
Right.
align myself and center myself with that moment? And really in that moment, you're the most productive. So how do you get people to that spot? I mean, is it just example talking? Like what do you do to try and motivate people in that direction?
Well, I try to bring up examples, obviously, and one of these analogies that I just think is so powerful that I stumbled upon just a few months ago is that even if you've ever heard of a hurricane before, or
Right.
maybe you've been through one and experienced one, a hurricane, whether it be turbulent winds, whether it be rain, whether it be just a terrible storm that's going on, and in a circular motion that's spinning. I mean, we have one now that's going over Puerto Rico. It might hit Florida
Right.
at the end of this weekend coming up.
Right.
But in every hurricane, there's an eye. And in the eye of a hurricane, there is a peacefulness that people will describe. There's almost like a stillness and a silence. So it's almost like I feel that as human beings, we're not stopping the world. We're not stopping the chaos. We're not stopping like everything going a mile a minute. And
Right.
sometimes we got to get involved in that storm and we got to accelerate our lives. But we can also go to that center within ourselves. That's why
Right.
I'm always pointing to the center of my heart. And we can go within. And whether it be a deep breath, whether it be just closing our eyes, whether it be focusing on what it is that we're grateful for,
Right.
and just getting ourselves back to that moment. And it's
Right.
it's almost like the power of pause, Jeff. It's
Mm.
pausing. So I tell people all the time. So whether it's going and talking to someone, is that whether it be an interview that you're going on for work, or whether you're going to just you're meeting someone on a date,
Right.
is that just take that moment and breathe. Just pause for a second. And
Right.
so it works in that way to help relieve like nerves and jitters, but it also helps us how much in our society do we have like a knee jerk reaction to maybe we get a text from someone, or
Yeah.
maybe we get a phone call, or maybe someone confronts us. And right away, without any type of pausing, is that we just react. And a lot of times, whether it be on social media, whether it be texting, whether it be even speaking, we can't take it back. We
Right.
can't take it back. So I tell people, listen, if you've gotten a scathing email or a scathing text or something in which someone's responded to you on social media, I was like, take a pause for 10 seconds. Just take a
Right.
deep breath and just ask yourself, you know what? Do I want to respond this way? Is it in
Right.
my best
Right.
interest and the person's other best interest? And it's amazing, Jeff. So we're just talking about 10 seconds. 10 seconds that we take out of our time to just collect our thoughts, to breathe, then we're not so high energized anymore. And we could make a much more beneficial
Right.
response
Right.
to someone or something.
Yeah.
But again, last time I checked, we were human beings, not human doings. Yet our
Yeah.
world's gotten faster than ever before, and
Yeah.
it concerns me in many ways because we got to slow down things. But you talk to a lot of people about slowing down, taking time out for themselves, deep breathing. They don't feel it's productive.
Right.
They feel like I'm missing out. I'm not doing something. Whereas
Yeah.
you take a few deep breaths, you collect your thoughts and everything. You're actually reducing your stress. You're actually improving your health, and you're building much more creativity and collecting your thoughts in a much more organized manner in which, you know what, you're going to sound even better when you respond now.
Right. I am actually guilty of a number of the things that you said. I'll get a in business, I'll get a text message from someone, or I'll get an email, and my body will, biologically and emotionally respond, and I'll get upset and I'll get anxiety, and I've actually been trying to work on it. And you mentioned about being in that centered calm place. And I think I understand what you're talking about, because I get there sometimes by accident. All of a sudden I'll just feel like, water is just falling on me like warm water, and all of a sudden my mind is just at ease. But it's, how do you get there? How do you get there consistently? And that moment that I'm talking about, that feeling, is that what you're talking about? You go from like an anxiety or concern or worry
Up
about
building
that.
up a lot, Jeff,
What's
is
that?
this thing called fear. What ends up building up a
Yeah.
lot, which contributes to anxiety, is fear. And
Right.
so a lot of people say, well, you got to be fearless. And while I love that word and it sounds so admirable and so heroic, it's not natural. You know why it's not natural? Because fear is natural. So to be fearless, like, don't have any fear, that's not natural. So what
Right.
I say is like courage is moving forward in the face of fear. But anytime I tell someone when fear is building, and usually fear has to do, it's not with the past.
Mm-hmm.
Fear has to do with the anticipation and the anxiety of what you feel is coming up down the road. Is I tell people to exhaust the fear, to
Right.
leverage the fear and turning it into energy. And I tell them do this asking 3 questions. You do this with fear, I promise you, you will be much calmer. Okay, if you move forward in the face of this fear, what's the worst case scenario? So whatever your mind's telling you, rather than suppressing it and getting all worked up about it, what's the worst case scenario if I move forward in the face of this fear? Is the
Right.
world going to come to an end like my dramatic mind's going to tell me? No. Is
Right.
this person going to leave me? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so what's the best case scenario? Question number 2. So if I move forward in the face of this fear, what's on the other side? What's the best case scenario?
Right.
And then the third question is, What's the most likely case scenario? So you entertain all those.
Right.
You ask the question, you answer them, and then you
Mm.
take action on those, is that you'll realize that this fear, it's not real.
Right.
And so you might say, well, why does this happen? And if you think about it, even in times of good changes that we make, Jeff, we
Right.
get really excited. Like, I'm going to go to that gym. I'm all excited about going to this gym. And then all of a sudden your mind's like, you know what? Nah, you made this promise before and it didn't happen. And you're never going to look the way you want to look. You're like, yeah, why does your mind sabotage you like that? Is that because your mind has no reference for change. It
Right.
has no reference for the future. So
Mm-hmm.
what does it do? It knocks you back into the past, reminds you of times when you have failed,
Right.
times when things haven't worked out, because then your mind has control over you and you end up anything and not moving forward in the face of this fear.
Right.
It's when we talk about meditation. It's when we talk about deep breathing. It's when we talk about different things to be in the moment that all of a sudden that mind pushes that panic button and says, no, that's not good for us.
Right.
And so what I've done with the mind, because the mind's always going to show up, Jeff, the mind's always there front and center, and it's usually not in a very positive way. People
Right.
talk about the sabotaging self.
Yeah.
That's that mind at work, and it's usually first thing in the morning. So
Oh my
rather than
God.
kind of like, I'm not listening to you, I want nothing to do with you, is that, and you know what, Julia Cameron, she was great. She wrote a book called The Artist's Way. It's a great book.
I
And
read it.
I
I
hope
read it.
all your listeners go out there. It
Yeah.
was originally created for aspiring actors and actresses,
Yeah.
but then people from all walks of life realize, well, wait a minute, this book is speaking to me too. She talks about the sabotaging self showing up first thing in the morning, and rather than suppressing it and saying, you don't exist or I'm not going to listen to you, she said, give it a platform.
Right.
Give it a platform. So she's like, she talks about doing morning pages, like 3 pages each morning of just what that sabotaging self has to say. And then you exhaust it.
Right.
And then it's almost like, that's all you got for me?
Yeah.
And then that creative, authentic, that real person
Right.
comes out.
Right.
And so it's almost like for that moment, you've silenced the sabotaging self. But trust me, so it's almost like observing a movie. Like you see this mind playing this dramatic rollout on
Right.
the screen of your mind, and you get to a point where you can almost like laugh at it, Jeff. It's not reality unless we make it reality.
Well, I'm getting there, but fear translates into what's going to be taken away from me. And it was very poignant what you said. For whatever reason, and I don't know why, it's maybe because you're going from a deep sleep to putting your feet on the floor to waking up. My first hour of the day, I'm Jack Nicholson in The Shining with the icicles, when he's frozen in the maze. I get up in the morning, I get out of bed, I'm sitting there, I'm like, Wendy, and then like, it takes me an hour. My dogs come in, they lick my face. My kid runs in, he wants to play me. After that good 45 minutes to an hour, like I start becoming myself and I start like dusting off the anxiety or what's bothering me of the day, cobwebs. But what's also really interesting is I don't think people know that fear, the foundation of fear, which causes the anxiety, is something that's normal and that they can relate to, that's going on with other people. Like they think they're abnormal because they feel that way. Like and it gets in their way, and it's happened to me, and it's something that I've been able to create and accomplish a lot of things, but I've always had to push through, and I think anybody who succeeded has found a way to push through that anxiety and that fear. I'm sure you notice in a lot of people, like they think that their emotions about the fear and anxiety is abnormal and they feel isolated about it. And I think someone like you, talking to a lot of different people, you can present it across a broad spectrum of examples of your life and people that you've dealt with, to give those people a baseline, a spectrum to look at and say, you're not alone. Everybody has this to some degree. Everybody, some high, some low.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So right here, right now, Jeff, is that I'm sitting here in this wheelchair. Now I could focus on, because there's a lot of things that I can't do in life. And there's a lot of things that I can think of I'm not going to be able to do in the future either. So I can really weigh myself down in dwelling on the past of things that I haven't been able to do.
Mm.
And then I could focus on the future of like all the things that I'm not going to be able to do in the future if I'm still sitting in this wheelchair.
Right.
I could absolutely play those cards, not only create that like horrible story in my mind, but I can act it out to the point where I don't want to act it out. I'm going to isolate myself. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. I could
Right.
sit on my pity potty if I want.
Right.
Or I can say to myself, you know what? There may be some truth to all this, but you know what? I'm having such a small view of what it is that's possible in my life. I just
Right.
need to take these blinders down a little bit and
Right.
focus in new areas and realize I'm convinced of this. For
Right.
every one thing that you tell me is wrong with your life, that you're scared of in your life, that you can't do in your life, I'm going to tell you that there's 10,000 things that are awesome about your life,
Right.
10,000 reasons to not only survive, but thrive.
Right.
And I think the moment you choose, I tell people all the time, I don't have bad days anymore, Jeff. I refuse to have a bad day. And I don't say that to sound heroic or inspirational.
No,
That's
man.
the truth.
Share it. Share it.
No, I made a decision a long time ago. I
Mm.
said, you know what? Oh, I have challenging moments. I have moments every single day of sadness, moments of maybe like borderline depressing moments,
Mm.
moments of anger, moments of frustration. Absolutely. But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's this thing called gratitude, Jeff, that I keep coming back to, that I will not allow a full day to go by. That's why I begin my day. My lucky number is
Right.
12. I
Right.
begin my day with gratitude. Before I even get up and into that chair, is at 12 things, and I try to mix it up 12 things for which I'm grateful. And
Mm-hmm.
then no matter what happens during the course of the day, no matter how many highs and lows, at the end of the day, before my head hits the pillow,
Right.
I will identify
Right.
12 things for which I'm grateful. I don't even write them down now because I'll just recite them in my head. I'm
Right.
so quick and concise, and they're so there because I'm so much in my heart these days. So
Yeah.
before I go to bed tonight and everything, absolutely being here with you, Jeff, on the
Mm.
show and being able to make an impact and touch people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be one of those things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
I'm
tomorrow, a whole new day, a whole new list of gratitude. So
right.
that's what I would suggest, is that it's, and I don't want to make this complicated for your listeners, is that our minds are taking us down a path which isn't very pleasant, which there may be some truth to as to things we can't do, or maybe an anticipation of the future.
Right.
But if you fully give your mind full power, it's not going to create a pleasant picture for you. And so what do? Is that you make a choice. You make a choice to focus on, what is it that I want to create? What is it that I still can do? And begin to paint that picture. And sometimes you're going to realize that they're baby steps, and maybe it's 2 steps backwards.
Right.
But if you stay focused on what it is that you want, there's going to be some giant leaps in there.
Right.
And you'll
Right.
realize that, wow, this thing called life, and the
Right.
more that I'm in my heart, not here. I always say the mind thinks, the heart knows. I'd much rather be in my knowingness.
Right.
So when I'm
Right.
in my heart, guess what? That's where I believe that anything is possible.
Right. No, it's just incredible advice, and it's something that I try. A lot of the things that you're saying are examples of things that I think about during the day to pull me through, to not have those bad days, to not react, to feel, positive in the light of some of the anxiety or fears that everybody has. But at the end of the day, you have to have the energy and the understanding of what's going on inside you to want to motivate forward. And I guess
Right.
a lot of the people that come to you, or the people that come to listen to you, they don't know what exactly is going on. They don't know exactly where they want to go or how to fix how they're feeling, but they they want to put another step in front of their other foot. They
They
want
want
to
change. They
walk.
want change.
Yeah, they
So you
want
know what I
change.
say to that? Because there's some people, Jeff, who say, I don't know what I want in life, Scott. I
Right.
don't know what I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of people are like, so what do you say to them, Scott? Is I said, that may be the truth. But you know what you do know? You know what that path is that you're currently on isn't working for you. You know those
Right.
feelings that you are feeling
Right.
aren't working for you. So I say go in a complete opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening, so if this road behind me is dark and depressing that I've been on, you know what? I'm just going to start going in the opposite direction. And
Right.
so you start venturing in the opposite direction. And we would all get 100 on that test. If I asked you what was the opposite of sadness, happiness, find something that makes you happy, start heading in that direction.
Right.
Okay, depressing. You know what? This person's bringing me down every time I talk to them. Maybe it's a bad relationship. Okay, who's someone who uplifts me? Who's someone in my life that I can call, a friend, a family member who's going to uplift me? Get
Right.
on the phone with that person. So what ends up happening is that we start moving away from what it is that we no longer want, and move more into what it is that we do want. And then that picture becomes clearer as to a path that we may want to venture on and explore, with nothing being guaranteed. But you'll find that your energy level will increase because you're moving away from what you no longer want.
Yeah. I think a point to take from this dialogue that we have back and forth with anybody that's going to listen to this is that if you do want to take a step forward, if you do want to make a change in your life, especially emotionally, how you're feeling, that there is a path to feel better, and there is a path to more productivity and to make these changes in your life. And look, I'm not as good at it as you are, that's for sure, but I can relate to what you're saying, and I think a lot of people that might be listening or will listen will be able to relate to. So it's just amazing what you're saying and your positivity.
But it's not a one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter. So
Right.
what might work for you in terms of working your way, that's your journey, that's your path.
Right.
What it is that like might work for me.
Right.
So I give people somewhat of a blueprint, but it's customized. So what you may need to do, some people might need to travel. So for me, I was able to get out of my surroundings. I never had a desire to go anywhere outside of New Jersey for a period of time. And then an opportunity came where I was able to do all this travel, and it was perfect for me and my journey. That's not necessary. You can make changes wherever you are right now in your lives. You don't have to travel. That was my journey. Maybe travel does. Maybe travel is in the cards for you, or someone else.
I did a lot when I was younger.
Yeah. We customize this thing called life.
Right.
But there are certain things that are universal. When I talk about gratitude, when I talk about courage, when I talk about feeling your feelings, which is so important, when I talk about like leveraging adversity. I mean, we hear the line all the time, turning lemons into lemonade.
Right.
Saying and everything, but you can take, there's not one example, Jeff, that anyone could give me from his or her life in which, yeah, you know what, maybe in that moment it felt like the end of the world, but you can't tell me there isn't a positive to take away from that experience. And I think, well, again, we'll never forget certain moments in our lives.
Right.
I'm not saying that we're going to forget them, but we can kind of shift our perspective on it. And we can say to ourselves, you know what did I learn about myself? Who did I meet?
Right.
And who was that person maybe who I met who helped me get to that next place in life? And why did I need to have that experience? And it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle that begins to formulate before our very eyes and saying, you know what, this thing called my life, this makes sense. This makes sense. It may not be the ideal path that you would say, hey, you know what, I wish my life went this way. No, but it's unique to you. And it's made you who you are today.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah.
I'm sorry. No, go finish what you were going to say.
No, you go.
No, I was just going to say, for me, because you're saying it's a jigsaw puzzle, one of the things that worked for me was pushing myself into experiences or social situations or trying new things that made me uncomfortable. And every time I did that, I got a little bit more easy and I learned something else and I got a little bit more confident. So in trying to find this place that you're talking about, what were you calling, like a calm place or a centered place? I don't know what you said before about finding that moment when you're
that place within, just going within.
Right. Well, people have those moments, and I've had those moments sometimes. And for me, it's about building confidence, pushing through the anxiety, pushing through the fear. And for me, it's trying things, learning new things, and getting a little bit more confidence each, step of the way. For sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Jeff, we all have comfort zones, Jeff. We haven't brought up that term yet, but comfort zones. And our comfort zones, they protect us, they serve us. There's so many positive with comfort zones, and nothing ever grows until we move outside that comfort zone. Right. So for all the pros that our comfort zones do for us is that when we take that step, what you just said, those examples of when you push the envelope a little bit and you try new things and you try going in a different direction, you can always come back to that comfort zone. But knowing full well that when you move out of there, life really seems to open. And rather than having like this vision now, you have this vision. And there's a lot more opportunities and vision. But knowing full well, you could always come back to your own little comfort zone, just with a few more experiences under your belt.
You can go back to the couch and the TV and relax, and with a bag of chips.
Whatever works for you.
Comfort zone. But I think just one point, because this is really poignant and what you're saying is really awesome, is that if you want change, if you want to feel a little better, and you want to get to that zone we've been talking about, you got to do things that make you uncomfortable sometimes, and you got to like not back down.
Absolutely.
You got to do it. I mean, if it's just, I don't know, not eating for a day because you want to lose weight, you got to force yourself to do it, or you don't want to go outside. You got to force yourself even when you feel like shit. You got to do it. Absolutely.
Or even
And
exercise. People going to the gym. You see people doing cartwheels like first thing in the morning. Woohoo! I'm going to
right.
the gym.
Yeah.
No, you don't do that. You're like, oh, I'd so much rather just curl up and sleep for another 30 minutes. But so this is where you remind yourself what's
Right.
waiting for you after this workout.
Right. Is
And
there
so the way you're going to feel and the confidence and knowing full well that you've kind of reconnected with your body and it just that's why I love when people work out first thing in the morning. It
Oh
really
man.
starts your day off on a high. But we dread it. And a perfect
I
example,
know,
what we were
man.
talking
I
about
know.
before, is that your mind dreads it. It's just like there's effort and there's work and you're gonna get sweaty and doing all this. But then
Right.
when you override it, you get out of that bed, you go to the gym and you make it happen, you know what feeling's coming for you
I
after,
I
which is
rode
great.
I
Good
rode
for us.
crew for 5 years, and I had to wake up at 4:50 in the morning every day. So for me, it's like I never want to go in the morning. I'm a late night owl gym guy, but I totally dread it in the morning. I did have another. I totally dread. I did have another question. Is there a common theme you see across the board with people that you either speak to or you help through with life coaching, or we've hit on that common theme already? Is there something that we haven't touched upon that you've seen or you see now with the younger generation? Is there something that is a common sort of cultural or emotional issue that's going on with people
Yeah,
that we
I think that we did touch upon it a little bit, but I think we are in a society that is really moving too quickly. And while I am a big proponent of the internet, I mean, we're taking advantage of it right now.
right?
Um, I, I always compare the internet to heaven and hell. Heaven
Yeah.
in that it's connecting people at the speed of light. It's bringing families together. It's doing so many things in a positive way. It's forwarding businesses. It's allowing people to have jobs and create income. So that's the powerful part of it. But also, it's just wow, the snapshots that people get and how quickly in their attention span and being able to have a conversation with some people. And you talk about today's younger generation. I feel that there's so much into their mobile devices and looking down. It's almost like, hey, you know what, pick that head up, because when you go for that interview for college or you go for that interview for a job, it's not going to be done with your head in the phone. So it's like anything in life, Jeff, but I think
Mm.
this younger generation. So the way I know this to be true is that if you ask anyone who's like our age, who didn't have the internet, didn't have mobile devices back when we were a teenager, I have yet to find one person when I've asked, you know what, do you wish you had like mobile devices and the internet when you were back in school? Everyone says no.
Right.
Everyone says no. We take advantage of it now as adults, but we say no way, because we
Yeah.
see what it's doing with our kids today and everything. But yet there's addictive features on these that we're finding as adults. We're becoming addicting to. I find it very difficult to put down my phone because, whoa, is that an opportunity? Is that someone that's trying to connect with me? And
Right.
there's this almost like uh, rush of adrenaline that we get through
Right.
this. And it's addicting to the point where you can't find your phone. Then
Right.
you get really scared and nervous. So I love to see things slow down a little bit. I'd love to see people take I've talked about the power of pause, but it's almost like the power of pausing from using your mobile devices. Like just remove it from your life 15, 20 minutes. Try it for an hour. Try it for a full day and see the reaction that you
Right.
get.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, it's become so habitual and I have no problem using the word, so
No.
addicting for people
Right.
that, you know what, we are somewhat lost without it. And so we're doing this as adults, but this is what we're sharing with the generation. So I was talking to a parent before and they're like, wow, I'm not getting involved in the internet and everything. And I don't even have a phone. I was like, well, that's just ignorance.
Hmm.
So knowing full well that this is a strong part of communication, with our younger generation today. To just be foolish and say, I'm not going to get involved or I'm going to remove all this is just disconnecting them from communication.
Sure.
So it's not removing, it's reducing.
Right.
So it's interesting, and I love it on the iPhone. And I don't
Right.
know, do you have an iPhone?
I do. You're
Did
talking
you
about the feature. Yeah, the time feature for the
did you
week.
see that first time where screen time came up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it showed you how much time you were spending on your phone?
yeah.
I almost dropped my phone. I was like, I can't believe on average how many hours a day I'm on this phone.
Right.
So it's like I made a promise to myself that I'm going to reduce that number every day.
Right.
But that was such a wake up call to me saying, no, I'm not going to be ruled by this. And
Right.
so what's interesting is that when you reduce the time you're on your mobile devices, okay, when you reduce something, you have to replace it with something. So
Sure.
you know what? Maybe it's that book. People are reading far less books now because of their mobile devices. Maybe
Mm,
it's taking a walk outside, something that I don't do too much. Here's the
mm.
thing: a lot of people are like, I'm connecting with people, I'm on the phone and everything. Yeah, but when was the last time you went outside? When was the
Right.
last time you took your dog for a walk? When was the last time you just like wandered around aimlessly in society somewhere
Right.
and not with your phone?
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
I love to see our world slow down. And in slowing down, we're not going to become less productive. We're actually going to become more creative and more productive. So that's what's waiting for us on the other side. I don't see that happening for a while, though, because we are fast forward and connecting with people and moving and thoughts. And it's scary in a way,
Yeah.
to be a
Right.
part of that, because that's the world we live in right now.
Right. Well, it's that dopamine hit that you get every time, and it takes you to that little comfort place or that like on the Facebook. And I was actually,
Yep.
if you on a train or you're in a train station, or I was even over at my friend's house, and there were a bunch of little kids there, and they were all there was like 5 kids, and they weren't talking to each other, and they were all on their phone. And when you put that phone down, that's a new type of anxiety people that are creating for themselves as well. We're talking about it, so it makes it a little bit harder on top of the biological and fundamental problems that we have just being a person trying to get to those calm places. Um, I had
Well,
another,
it's FOMO. You've heard of that, right? The acronym FOMO, fear of
yeah,
missing out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we don't have our phones on us or not being a part of it.
All right,
It's FOMO. That's what we have, and our phones have just exasperated that.
right, right. Well, now you can be connected to 5 parties at once, and change direction in 2 minutes. When I made a plan when I was back in high school to meet at the corner of 9th and 41st Street, you had to show up. You couldn't be like, this party's better, I'm moving over to that party. But now, you got five different options. Scott, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but or we've touched upon it, but you have this model called I'm Possible. I'm not sure if you've spoken to that so far, but if you haven't,
Yeah,
maybe you can mention a little bit
just
about that.
absolutely. I want you and all your listeners, Jeff, to just kind of do a rewind of your life and just think of all the times you've used that word impossible. I can't get this done. It's not possible.
Right.
And think of how many times you just almost immediately went in a different direction. Whereas I like to say, you know what, is it tough? Is life tough? Okay, then it's going to require more effort. Sometimes it's going to require more work.
Right.
Is it impossible? I say the impossible just takes a little bit longer. And
Right.
so, what I love to do, and it's something simple. So, if I were to ask all of your listeners right now on the screen of their mind to just see the word impossible and think of how charged that word is, how debilitating it's been for
Mm-hmm.
them over their lifetimes, maybe. And just today, maybe for the first time ever, taking an apostrophe and putting it between the I and M to the point where it says, I'm possible.
Right.
And so that right away, when I first heard that, that put a little bit more wind in my lungs. That put my shoulders back a little bit. That made me just a little bit taller sitting in this wheelchair and saying, I'm possible. That sounds a lot better than impossible. And so it
Right.
just opens up the playing field for me. So somebody might say to me, Scott, it's impossible for you to walk again. And so I'm not walking right now, but I will never say that it's impossible. There's a lot
Right.
of things that, I can't put in that category just because I just know the power. I know the power of healing. I know the power of curing. I know the power of so many things in life, but the power of possibilities is one of those um, powers that, I just see happening all around me on a daily basis. I
Right.
see people running into or hearing of stories of people running into burning buildings and bringing out children and not being burned at all.
Right.
I see people who are like living in the worst possible impoverished situations, yet are now have found a way to not only go to school, but to go to high school, to go to college, who are now making an insane amount of money doing things. So while there's a part of me that feels for everyone who feels like they have a sad story, and we
Right.
all have parts of our own story that are sad,
Right.
is that not in a place anymore where sometimes I'm stunned, Jeff. I'm a little stunned by things, but I'm never shocked anymore.
Right.
Because again, what gets me, I've come full circle, is that it gets me back to that power to choose.
Sure.
We can go beyond our wildest dreams, or we can go in the total opposite direction and create a life of destruction for ourselves and other people. That's how powerful our power to choose is.
Right. Absolutely. But you got to make that choice, man. So I hope people that are listening listen and look at Scott as an example, because it's an incredible story, and I so admire your attitude and the way you live, and it's so believable and so authentic. It's really amazing. Does this sort of lead into the live from your heart and not your head philosophy as well?
Yeah, so I believe we're conditioned as beings to live from here. And when we're living from our heads and our minds, it's
Right.
about fear, it's about disbelief, it's about playing small in life.
Right.
You have to ask yourself if any, if not all of those words resonate with you. If that's the case, guess what? This is what you're listening to right now. So you might say, well, what do I do? What do I do instead of that? Is that we also have a message inside our hearts. And when our hearts are leading the way, then it's about courage. Then it's about expansion. Then it's about subscribing to the belief that anything is possible. So then when your heart's leading the way, you might say, then what happens to your mind? Then your mind comes along for the ride. And
Right.
then it serves you in the form of creativity and imagination. That's where the mind becomes beautiful.
Right.
But yet, you know what? Too many people, we know it's here in
Right.
terms of tough times. We know in terms of courage that's needed. And I'm saying, yeah, we turn there in terms of times that are tough and courage. I was like, but what if we choose to live there on a
Right.
daily basis,
Right.
knowing full well it's going to be there in our tough situations? We know that. Why
Right.
don't we live here on a daily basis? So when I find myself in one of those things that sometimes helps me get out of a funk, if I feel like I'm in a little bit of a funk, I say, what does my
Mhm.
heart have to say?
Right.
I know what my mind's saying right now because that's the reason I'm in the funk. But what does my heart have to say? And
Right.
then it's like this expansiveness rather
Right.
than this little narrow view that I've had of something.
Right.
Then it becomes much more expansive and it's huge.
Right.
And so my primary example of that, Jeff, is when I first became paralyzed. And while doctors said I would never walk again, and my mind got a hold of that and was creating such a dark and lonely place for me
Mm.
based on that sentence that was given me. But then all of a sudden, hearing that I was the 12th documented case ever, and out of the 7 cases before mine, out of the 11 cases before mine, 7 of those occurred in the brain and went down, and those people didn't live. My heart took over and
Mm.
said, Scott, you're still alive. You're
Right.
still here. If you keep showing up for life, life is going to be good to you. And it was the first time that I can consciously trusting the message of my heart. And
Right.
while you know what, I get caught up here just like everyone else. I've done so much work on myself. There's so much self-awareness that I realize, okay, this is what's at work now. I need to get back here because this
Right.
is who I'm all about. This is the real Scott Chesney that's in here. And so what
Right.
does my heart have to say?
Mhm.
And so it's almost like I want to go to Nike with a new phrase. They have just do it.
Right.
I want to say just do it, dot, dot, dot. Think about it later. Because the more
Right.
we think about something, less likely we're going to get something done.
Yeah,
And
man.
I'm not saying not to take precautionary measures, but
Mm.
just do it. Just do it. You want to go to that gym? Just do it. You want to
Mm.
call that loved one who you haven't called in a while? Just do it.
There's
You
so
want to call that person who you want to ask out on a date? Just call them. Just call
right.
them.
So true what you're saying. So amazing, and so many incredible examples of things you're saying. It's really moving, and it's awesome to hear. I have a couple more questions
Yes.
before we wind down. Um, you know, across the spectrum of people that you're talking to, you mentioned FOMO, the fear of missing out, or besides the fear of missing out, maybe I want to be like that rich guy. Maybe I want to have a shitload of money. Maybe I want to have that car. Maybe I want that house. Whatever it may be. Maybe I want to climb that mountain. Whatever challenge. But what do you think people are really looking for? Is it? I know it's a broad question. What do you think? What do you think people want at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think people want to feel a sense of peace, and they
Right.
want to feel a sense of happiness.
Right.
And sometimes we associate that with money. Sometimes we associate that with another person.
Right.
Sometimes we associate this with something that's outside of ourselves. And while I tell people all the time and everything, and I make good money and I can always make more money, is that, you know what, money can't buy you happiness. I believe that. But let me just tell you, when there's a foundation of happiness within you, is that money can absolutely help that happiness trail.
Right.
So I think it's very important to help people establish a peace, a sense of happiness. And the thing is that it's got to start from within. So it's when we look outside ourselves in the form, even another person.
Right.
I don't know if you remember from Jerry Maguire, is that
Yeah.
I remember being in a movie theater when I saw that movie,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he's like, "You complete me." And I
Right.
heard this like, "Oh," in the movie theater. And
Right.
I'm in like the back saying, "No, no one completes you.
Right.
You're telling me that when you came into this world, you were incomplete and you
Right.
need another person to complete you? So
Yeah.
if for whatever reason you break up with this person or you get a divorce, that means you're incomplete again? No.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not to devalue the wonderful people, friends and family that are in our lives,
Right.
but you are complete. Jeff, you are complete right here, right now. I am complete right here, right now. Are there levels of completeness to become more aware of? Absolutely. But
Mm.
you are an extraordinary being. I'm an extraordinary being. To say that doesn't mean I'm conceited, because I
Mm.
realize is that there's all different levels, because every single human being, if you
Right.
put anybody in front of me right now, I'm going to say that's the one title. And this is what unites us all, human being. We all came into this world with that title of human being.
Mm.
And so knowing full well that, we are human beings, we have an opportunity to create beyond our wildest dreams. And we have the capacity to make mistakes, to learn from them, to
Mm.
be in a place of forgiveness. We have all this power and potential, but yet it eludes us
Sure.
if we are looking outside for it. So I'm going to say, to answer your question, we're looking for, and we won't use the term, inner peace and happiness. That's what we're
Right.
looking for.
Right.
That's what we want.
Right. Because at the end of the day, when someone says, I want to be happy, or you say to a person, what do you want? I want to be happy. To me, what is happiness? Happiness is, it's being calm, it's being relaxed, it's not being scared, it's not having anxiety, it's not about if you have the most money, and somehow we get lost on that outer spectrum of things that we think are going to bring us there. If I just do this, I'm going to get there. But at the end of the day, I'm most happy when I'm having a conversation like this with someone like you, or I'm talking
Right.
to a best friend, or I'm doing an activity or hobby. Yeah, I need the money and it's nice to have a nice car and all those different things, but not being scared, not having anxiety, not having to go somewhere, just having these interchanges like this and being calm. I mean, to me, that's happy. And I don't know for people that are listening or will watch if that's happiness for them, but that's how I sort of, in my mind, define it.
But then, see, this is beautiful, Jeff. So that works for you, and I love that, and that resembles what works for me as well in many ways. But then you got somebody out there who, whether it's a soccer player who's
Right.
passionate about playing soccer, when I'm out there and I got 30,000 fans screaming for me and everything, that's when I feel like one with the universe and I feel passionate. And that other person who is just there and giving of their time, volunteering. And so this is the beautiful thing. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever it is that brings you joy, whatever it is that brings you a sense of peace. And so what I love to say is that, that peacefulness can come in the form of speaking. It can come in the form of moving, sometimes very fast.
Mm.
And I think what you'll realize in even more peacefulness and happiness in your life is that when you balance it. So I tell people, how would we know pleasure if we didn't know pain?
Right.
How would we know success if we didn't know failure?
Right.
How would we? So for me, in my journey, it was all about talking. And even though I was paralyzed, it was all about movement. So where did my biggest learnings and takeaways come? In their polar opposites. Talking, silence. Wow, through meditation. When I experienced silence on a level, did creativity just become exponentially more important in my life.
Yeah.
And then we talked about movement. What's
Right.
the opposite of movement? It's stillness.
Mm.
Stillness.
Right.
And so even though I'm paralyzed, I'm moving around, I'm going here, I'm going there. When I sat and I bring it back to, and I get nothing by saying this, is that I probably would have been like the guy who had been furthest away from meditating based on all the movement and noise that I had created in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But when I embrace this, and I don't even think there's a close second, Jeff,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
to meditation, when I found the benefits of meditation, something that I practice on a daily basis now, is that, wow, am I more productive? Am I
Right.
more peaceful? Am I happier? Absolutely. And so I want your listeners to think about those things that you've avoided for a while. I'm like one of those people too, is that you suggest a book to me, I'm going to take a mental note of it. If like a few hours later or a few days later, that book reappears and it comes up, oh, I'm going to get that book right away. I feel like this world's telling me you need to read this book.
Right.
And so it's almost like just knowing full well that this wonderful universe is supporting you in what it is that you want.
Sure. Absolutely. Um, I wanted to, as we wind down here a little bit, because I know your time is limited, and again, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. I want to read something that you said that was quoted and written, and it says that there are peaks and great moments in life, but there are also wipeouts, dips, and challenges one must face. The reality is you cannot have one without the other. Chesney emphasizes that even setbacks are not truly bad, as one can often learn an abundance of lessons from these challenges. In all the moments of life, whether it be peaks or dips, it is important to focus on the present and find what is good in the moment. Chances are it's often better than it seems. And that last sentence is the most poignant for me, because I'm always like, shit, man, I'm in trouble. This is not good. But like you said, the initial energy and shock of it wears off. But you said that, and I know we've touched on a lot of things tonight that represent that paragraph. But I mean, truly amazing words. Thank you so much. It's awesome.
You know what? That's so much why I am so excited, because next year a documentary on my life is coming out. It's called Ride the Wave.
Wow.
And while a lot has to do with adaptive surfing and the role of surfing in my life, and coming back to the Mike Zakelli and who got me really interested, and Ricky Papera and Robbie Nelson and the whole wonderful team that
Right.
got me back into the ocean and surfing again, that's riding the wave in itself. But I realized, and the documentary crew that approached me about this realized, that like my life is all about riding the wave. And I don't think that became more clear than just through surfing. I mean, and if there are people out there who, whether they don't like the ocean, don't go in the ocean, don't like surfing, don't like swimming, that's fine. Because I think we can all be in awe and admiration of the ocean and all that it represents. But what's interesting is that, there are times in our lives, and this is just like a wave, when we're at the peak, where everything seems crystal clear, when we have great perspective, we have great focus on what it is that we want, what we can achieve. And those are the moments we wish never ended. And so we wish those can last, but just like any wave, is that, there's a peak and there's a valley. And
Yeah.
in those valleys, and it could be wipeouts or a wave coming on top of you and just coming crashing down, is that we experience those in life too. Those are our setbacks. Those are the adversity. Those are the challenges that we experience. And while in those moments, and we've shared this before, it feels like the end of the world, is that what's interesting, and I'll never forget one of these major wipeouts that I went through, is that I basically had washed up onto shore, and I looked back over my shoulder,
Mm.
and there was another wave that was coming, looking nothing like a wave I'd ever seen before. And
Yeah.
then another wave behind that wave, another wave behind that. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, this is like life.
Right.
Is like there are no two experiences alike. And so there are experiences that are waiting for us like nothing ever before. And so just as we hopefully get back on that board and ride those waves in the ocean,
Right.
we got to get back into life and realize that through this experience is how might I navigate my life a little bit differently now? But knowing full well that there's always another opportunity, there's always a second chance, a third chance, you name it, to get back there, to get engaged and realize that, you know what, bottom line is it's a beautiful ride. It's
Right.
a beautiful ride.
Yeah. Well, you figured out how to ride it, and the fact that you can surf is an amazing thing. And I actually met you through my wife, who's a major surfer, and she rides those waves the way you ride those waves. It's her piece, man. It's where she loves to be, and I just let her be, and I let her do it. But
So
I,
that's not so this is beautiful though, Jeff, is that and again, you guys are married and there's
right,
an incredible love. And I felt that love that you two were experiencing that night, the way you looked at one another.
right,
But guess what? That's her passion.
right,
That's her path. That's something that brings her immense peace. I'm in that place too. I need to be close to the ocean. Do not move me inland anywhere. I'll go visit anyone, but
right,
I am living near an ocean. I got to because there's a calling for me. And
right,
so that may work for someone like your wife. That may work for me. That may not work for you. That may not work for some of your listeners. And
right,
that's okay. That's what makes this world beautiful is that we're all unique, yet
right,
we're connected through this title of human being. And
right.
that's what we need to respect ourselves and other people in this journey.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think we could find a better moment to end the night on that comment in that sentence, because I'm not going to say anything that's any better than that or more moving than that. So I just, really want to thank you for being here. Not only was it fun to interview and to listen to you, but it was helpful. It was really amazing. It was a very, very positive force, and it's one of the reasons that I was, drawn to you. And again, I really appreciate your willingness to come on the show and to be here. And I think a lot of people are going to benefit. And I thank you so much. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you for including me in this and best of luck in this venture.
I will. I'll be speaking to you soon. I'll reach out. Okay. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye bye.